20th century English philosopher of much significance, importance, influence, and prominence in the world, Alan Watts was actually right when he said the ego is nothing more than the focus of conscious attention, meaning when we are being absolutely conscious, when we are absolutely aware and cognitive and focused, then we also are being egoistic in one way or another, because the ego actually has never been nothing more than the absolute attainment and realization and actualization of one's own consciousness, awareness, and other hidden psychological powers and spiritual abilities and intellectual faculties that have always been there inside of the person himself, but because of lack of focus, attention, concentration, and also because of his own ignorance, arrogance, aggression, he just was not able to realize or identify or recognize his hidden abilities and internal parts that include his own consciousness and its awakening, and including awareness and attention, and the list just goes on. So the ego is nothing more than when the consciousness is being absolutely attentive. So when the consciousness gains and attains absolute attention, focus, and concentration, then not only are we able to identify our own weaknesses, shortcomings, deficiencies, and difficulties, and we're also able to recognize our ignorance that manifests in our anger, aggression, desperation, frustration, and ego and crisis, but we're also able to deal with and ultimately come to terms with and overcome all of our problems, shortcomings, and drawbacks, and obviously ego, etc. And that becomes possible because of our awakening consciousness, and also because of our focused and attentive consciousness. So when the conscious becomes attentive, then that becomes the ego. So the ego cannot always be considered to be opinion, perception, or considerations about the self, or vanity, pride, arrogance, but it's also about being or becoming absolutely and totally aware, conscious, alarmed, and also the development of one's own psychological powers and integrating them into the self for the overcoming of problems and dealing with other people in one way or another. So that's how ego becomes conscious attention, because until we make the conscious basically